Welcome to Empire Building. I'm Wendy Papazan, and together with my 4 co-hosts, we bring you weekly unfiltered conversations about leadership, growing a big empire, and living on your own terms.
I'm Kimber Levitt-Mankiti. We are investors and wealth builders with over $75 million in combined net worth.
I'm Sarah Reynolds. We are visionaries who built more than 50 businesses with over $122 million in annual revenue.
I'm Tiffany Fikes. We've led thousands of people and do it all while being pretty good moms.
And I'm Seychelle Van Poole. We are your podcast to learn how to build big businesses and even bigger lives.
Hi, it's a new week on the Empire Building podcast, and Sarah and I have a new episode for you. It's going to be super tactical, as you would expect from Sarah and Tiffany. And it's focused on growing your business, which we know our listeners love.
We're going to dive into a topic that every single real estate agent needs. And not just every real estate agent, really, honestly, every business owner. So if you are a business owner, if you're in sales, if you are looking to grow your business, we're going to be talking about something that is so critical, which is how to convert a lead. So someone that asks a question, right? So raises their hand, is calling you, reaching out to you, into an actual family that you get to serve, that you get to help. In real estate, a common sort of source of that is what we call a sign call. So someone that is calling about one of our listings. And on our team, we refer to online sign calls and then real sign calls, which are actually calls. But any basic question or someone wanting information about one of your listings, I consider a sign call.
So you're saying every reach out, like anybody asking about information on a property, y'all kind of label a sign call, whether it's via phone or email or whatever.
Yes. Sign calls is our third source of business. So this year we will do about 30 million in revenue, serve about 2,000 families. And the third source of business for Empower Home is sign calls. I'm pretty passionate about this topic for that reason.
Well, you're killer good at it too. I'm like, where's my pen? I cannot wait to see what we can learn.
Yeah, so we're going to dive in today to talk through how to use sign calls to actually convert to families served. And if you're not in real estate, don't leave, okay? Because I believe a lot of these tactics that we're going to share apply to any lead that's asking a question. Okay, you can literally translate what we say into your business in terms of when leads ask a question, okay? And so sign calls, like I said, I'm passionate about it because it is a huge source of business and it's actually sort of where I started. So I'm going to share a little bit of background here of why I'm passionate about sign calls. And so I joined my mom, Debbie, in 2006 as her buyer's agent. And as a buyer's agent, sign calls are like, that's how you feed your family because they're buyers calling on houses. I know your agents take sign calls, right?
Yes.
And they focus on buyers. So just like I was in 2006, right? And my mom said to me, okay, if you're going to get good in real estate, you've got to get good at sign calls. And here are some cassette tapes. And she gave me 6 cassette tapes.
What year was this?
2006.
Okay, I thought it started with 2000. I'm just making sure. Okay.
Yes.
Where did you find a cassette player?
She had one. She had all, it's good. This stuff is gold. All the old school, sales, real estate, business training is so much gold. And I sat down and there were 6 cassette tapes all around sign calls. From learning to smile when you answer the phone to how to control the conversation, which we're going to talk about here in a second. So many things. And so that was actually the first thing in real estate that I learned to be a master of. And that's why I'm passionate about it. It led to me being able to make $100,000 my first 6 months as her buyer's agent. And I tell our agents all the time, I had a split too. I've always had a split. Debbie didn't just let me have all the money. And so I had a good bit of success in a short period of time. And I believe it's 100% because of what I learned in those 6 cassette tapes about sign calls. And so that is why I'm passionate about this topic. So I'm excited today to share some of our wisdom with you and help you grow your business.
Yeah, I think of sign calls as They're little gold nuggets that you've got to mine because you don't necessarily see them as shiny things when you first look at them. They're like dull in the wall of the rock. But if you will do what you need to do, like I think that's a big thing is people are always like, well, sign calls aren't good because the buyers aren't motivated or because they, whatever. They try to blame the person on the other side of the call. And here's the reality. And what we're going to focus on today is not all sign calls are equal, but really your results are directly tied to what you do with the call. So today we're going to break up this process into 3 key sections. So we've got mindset, conversation frameworks, and follow-up systems. And by the end of the episode, you will have a roadmap to take sign calls from just a first contact to an actual closing, helping someone buy or sell a home. That sounds like it's worth a few minutes of everybody's time.
Yeah, let's dive into mindset because this is really where it starts. I think so many times sign calls are seen as an interruption because you never know when you're going to get them. Right. So like you can be at your son's t-ball game. You could be, driving in the car. You could be in a meeting. I mean, it's based on when the buyer wants information about the house. Okay. So I think a lot of times I have seen agents view them as like an interruption to their day, into their flow, and almost in a negative way of like, let me just answer their question and hang up. And the reality is that sign calls is so much gold is in that call. It is the best kind of lead because they're calling you. Okay.
Yes.
You're not calling them. They're calling you. And so we want you to shift your mindset. It's someone that can turn into a client if you view them as a client from the start. Okay. They see the sign, they're curious, and then they call. Okay. And so your job is to provide value in the moment and to build that trust quickly. But sign calls are like, I'm telling you, you can serve hundreds of families from just sign calls if you really take it seriously.
But I think that's so important because I do think so many agents, when you answer the phone, you're thinking, I'm annoyed because you're interrupting me. But like just shifting that mindset of, I cannot wait to answer this call because that's a client. Like, I can't wait to see who this client is that's calling me right now. Like, would be just wildly transformative in how you're handling sign calls. I know on our team, we do something called the money phone. So we have one number on all our signs. It goes to this literal flip phone. It's like a little black flip phone that our agents actually fight every week to get it. And so if they've hit their minimum standards, then they fight. I mean, we don't like brawl at team meeting, but we verbally brawl. We say why we think we deserve the money phone, and somebody on the team gets to pick who gets it. And then for that week, they're on call. And when that little flip phone rings, because it's separate from their cell phone, it's something that they know this is a sign call coming in. They can shift their mind to, ooh, I wonder what we're going to unmine with this call right here. So make sure that you know it's a sign call coming in because that'll help you shift your mindset. And I would also say you want to treat every client like $1 million listing because you actually have no idea, no matter what listing they're calling about, you have no idea who you have on the other side of the phone. And do not treat anybody differently because you don't know what the future impact they could have on your business. That's with every client that we serve. We talk about that on our team a lot. So every time your money phone rings or you're calling it, the ISAs know that it's coming from a certain phone number. They know it's a sign call. Get all giddy and I can't wait. And this is going to be $1 million listing. Can't wait to talk to them.
I love it. It's also a lot of times, as Tiffany said, like sign calls aren't just buyers. A lot of times that lead, that call, they have a house to sell. And so you can actually get listings from your current sign calls as well. And so if you're not all in with your mindset that sign calls are valuable, then the rest of the episode won't apply because you have to understand the value. Can I ask you, Tiffany, like our team's the same in terms of like the energy and excitement around a sign call. Like our ISAs know that it's a sign call. Like I get excited too when I know we also have a money phone as well. The money phone's ringing and that's a sign call. What made though your agents like have that mindset to be fighting for it? Like what led to that for them to be fighting for it?
You're sort of like, well, I've got all these different lead sources and how do we decide who gets what. And for me, it was a way to help them practice stating value, stating positive things about themselves. Like, I did this last week, because we don't walk around, not many people walk around able to, with pride, say what they did last week without having to create caveats for it. And you need to be able to speak confidently. And so it was one of the elements that I put into our team meetings, such that they would practice being confident about what they've done, being proud in a space where we would cheer them on. But it mostly came from, we have certain sources. How do we decide who gets what? And just decided that was it. The one person shouldn't be on call 24/7. Because if you have the money phone, you're on call. I want you to not answer your phone during a T-ball game every once in a while. So it shouldn't be the same person every time, but they know the value of it. And so they fight for it every week.
I think the key of what Tiffany just said is they know the value of it, right? They know the value. I am loving hearing the ambulance. And I don't know if our listeners can hear it, but I love New York City so much. And I'm like, and I know that means there's an emergency, so it's probably not good. It makes me excited. I can feel the New York City energy right now in Virginia because of it. So thank you, Tiffany, for being in New York City so I can get a little piece of it today. Okay, well, let's dive in. Okay, so first, adjust your mindset. Realize that these are valuable. They're not interruptions. They're families that you can serve. Okay. They can be a huge source of both listing business and buyer business for your business. And the same goes for any business, right? A customer, a lead asking you questions about a product or asking you questions about a service that you offer is the most valuable lead you can get. Okay. So you want to have a positive mindset around them asking questions about your service or about your product. In our case, our product is the listings that we sell. But let's get into what we say. Okay. So they call. You are in the middle of doing something else and the money phone rings. You know it's a sign call, which we do recommend come up with some type of system that it's a sign call. Okay. So like Tiffany and myself, we have a separate phone that everyone knows that if that rings, that's a buyer calling about one of our listings. Okay. So let's talk about the structure of the conversation. Okay. The biggest secret, you guys hearing me? I got a secret. Okay. The biggest secret to handling a sign call is to be the one that controls the conversation. This is by far what Diana Kokoska is actually one of the cassette tapes. What she hammered in during that recording when I just got my real estate license is you must control the conversation. And how you control the conversation is a simple thing called asking questions. Okay. The person that's asking the questions is the person that is controlling the conversation. Okay. You also want to lead with curiosity and value. Okay. So an example of that. So they call and they're like, yeah, I'm calling about 123 Main Street. I'm outside, and typically they ask a very direct question like, how much is it? Or how many bedrooms? Or they're asking a very specific question. And so the first thing is I say, thank you so much for calling. I'd love to share more information about this property. Can I ask what caught your eye about it? Okay. So like, what about the house? There's something about the house that made them call. Okay. And so you want to immediately, you answer their question with a question. Okay. And so that's step number one is you want to control the conversation through questions.
And it doesn't matter if you know the answer or not to the question that they asked you. You still say, on our team, we often say like, well, I'm looking that up for you. What caught your eye about the property? Like even if you know the answer, you never answer the question. You start with a question. You will answer it eventually.
Say that again, Tiffany, because that was gold.
Yeah, I was going to say this was hard for me at first because if I knew the answer, it was like, no, you answer the question, but you never answer their question. Even if you know the answer, you are going to ask a question for them first. You will get there, but you do not ever answer that first question.
So good.
Okay, so what are you trying to do on this call? One of the things, you've gotten their motivation. They may say, oh, it's down the street from my daughter. And then you've got whole other episode from us about how you dig for motivation. Like, tell me what's important to you about your daughter living down the street. You're trying to get a real motivation from them. And once you've got that, then you're moving into trying to collect information, data. So you are going to have success in the follow-up for a sign call. Like, you sometimes can set an appointment immediately with a sign call. Totally happens. But 9 out of 10 successes happen in the follow-up, and you can't follow up if you don't have any information. So it's imperative that you get their contact information so that you can do that. So the conversation framework for that is, just in case we get disconnected, what's the best number to reach you on? And then they'll answer. And then you can even follow up with, what's your email address? And they're already in this habit of answering your questions. And so they'll do it a lot of times.
Yeah, I think what's important about a sign call to understand is that the purpose of you answering the call is not to actually sell the listing, to sell the house. Okay. Like, I think a lot of times people think, well, my job as the listing agent or as the listing team is to sell the house. And it is. Okay. But people sell homes, right? Meaning that, like, you want to get in front of them and build that relationship to see if it's a match for them. And so it's really critical. I think it's a less than 1% chance that they're going to buy the house that they called about. Okay. So what Tiffany is saying is that if you don't have their contact information to follow up with them later, you're going to lose a lot of business because you have a 99% chance they'll buy something else with you. Okay. But if you don't get their information, you only are giving yourself a 1% chance of serving that family. Okay. So second, after you collect their contact information to make sure that you follow up, okay, you're going to do what we call discovery. Okay. So what that means is that you're going to find out what they're looking for and a little bit about what they're looking for and their needs. So what we focus on is many times budget or, price range, timing, like when they want to purchase a home buy, and any specific needs that they have, right? So when you're answering the question, or when you're going over, like, let's say they say, how many bedrooms does it have? Well, this home has 3 bedrooms. Is that how many bedrooms you're looking for? So you're answering about the house because you want to do your job as the listing agent and talk about the house that they're calling about. Okay. But you're wanting to understand, what are their needs? Does that meet their needs? Right. And so many times they'll say, oh no, we were looking for a home with 4 bedrooms. Okay. So 4 bedrooms. What about 4 bedrooms is important to you? You're always repeating what they say, and then you're asking a follow-up question to what they say. Another great one is about price, right? The price of this home is $400,000. Is that the price range you're looking for? They might say, no, we're looking for up to $350,000. Okay, $350,000. That's awesome. How did you discover that's the price range that you feel comfortable in? You're coming up with questions. You're repeating what they say and or acknowledging what they say. And then you're asking a question back because the person that's asking the question is the one that's controlling the conversation. So you want to discover as much as you can about them, about their needs, and really start building a relationship with them based on what their needs are through the discovery part of the call.
Well, and I want to point out, listeners, like, at this point, you've given them just a tiny bit of information. Like, you've asked them, we're on step 3, and you've really not done more than answer the most basic question for them about the house. So, but you've gotten a lot of information about what's important to them, their motivation. Did they get pre-qualified, or did they just think in their mind that they should buy a $350,000 house? And this information that you've gathered is what moves you to step 3, which is educate them. So you know enough to be helpful at this point. You know enough about what they want. You know enough about why they're looking, how they got there, so that you can provide them valuable insight to them. Like, not just, okay, it's a 3-bedroom, it's this many square footage, here's the acreage. Like, no, you know too much about them to just provide basic information like that. Like, talk to them about a lender that might be helpful to them if they didn't actually get pre-qualified, or what about the home matches what they told you about why they wanted to live down the street from their daughter. Like, provide the information that helps them know, number 1, about the house, but number 2, that you are here to help them. Because the goal is not to sell the house. The goal is to get an appointment.
Yes.
So this is where you get to show that you've been listening at such a level that it is shocking to them that you know so much that would be so directly helpful to them. So use all that information that you've gathered and then provide valuable insights. What's going on in the neighborhood? What do they need to know about the property? And all of that helps position you as the expert, which then helps with the next step.
Yes. And easy hack for that, I love that, Tiffany. An easy hack for that is every time you have a listing, you want to set yourself up on auto emails of that market, of that neighborhood, of that zip code to where you know when homes come on the market, off the market, sell. And then that way, when they call, you already know the information. Every morning, that's what I do when I'm drinking my coffee, is I'm looking at the market. And if you're not doing that, then it's really hard to educate them, especially when you're caught off guard. You want to always be prepared, okay, to have these conversations because you are the professional, you are the expert. So I love that. And then the fourth part of our sort of conversation framework, right? So we've got making sure we collect contact information for the follow-up. We have discovery, asking them questions. We have education, right? And then the whole purpose of all three of those is, as Tiffany said, is to close for an appointment. You want to get in front of them, okay, as quickly as possible, okay? So you want to always aim to set an appointment, some type of face-to-face. So whether it's a showing, a consultation, maybe viewing another property that based on the discovery time of the conversation, you discover might be better for them, right? Okay, it's some type of face-to-face. Some items of value that we recommend to sort of keep like as an opportunity to book an appointment is if they own a home. So one of the questions that we asked during discovery is, do you currently rent or do you own a home? Right? And if they own a home, one of the things that we follow up with that is, were you planning on selling your home first or purchasing a home first? Now, most Americans can't afford 2 mortgages. Okay. So most times they want to sell their current house before they purchase. And so one item of value that you could provide that sign call is a home evaluation. Well, would you like an idea of what your home would sell for, right? Another item of value is the process. Maybe they're a first-time home buyer. We have a book, it's called Your First Home. I can do a simple 20 to 40 minute conversation with you about the process of buying your first house. Would that interest you? Right? Or when could we get together for me to go over that with you? Showing them the house, doing a buyer consultation. Like we have a whole needs assessment that we can do to really understand what you're looking for. And rather than send you hundreds of homes that may or may not match what you're looking for, if we could just sit down face to face and go over our questions, I'll actually end up saving you a lot of time. When would be a good time for me to do that? Tonight at 6 or tomorrow at 1? Right? And so you're closing for that. Maybe a list of off-market properties, right? So we actually have other listings that are coming up right around the corner from this one that might interest you. I would love to go over those with you. When could we get together for me to share with you our upcoming listings, right? Like you'll get access to them before anyone else, right? You want to make it very valuable.
I want to make sure everybody understands that Sarah knows what she says so perfectly. It just rolls off her tongue. She says these things over and over again in the exact same way because she knows that's the right way to say it. And so I want you to go back and listen to the last 2 minutes of Sarah talking through all of these things, because that is a proven framework of how you offer value to these people. What you just heard Sarah say is all gold, and I don't want you to miss it thinking, oh, this is just something she's reading. No, this is something Sarah has internalized so much that she can just rattle these things off for you. And that's what you want to do too. So I just want to make sure that nobody misses the magic that just happened in Sarah's Square.
Yeah, none of this is in writing. It is in here, but that's because I chose to be a master of it. That's in the beginning of the podcast, right? I shared that story. And again, so many people, they think these are wastes of time, and they're not. There's so much gold in these leads. And so you want to learn it. Thank you, Tiffany, for amplifying me there. But there's 5 ways that you can provide value to get in front of them. Okay. So based on what you discovered in the call, you're going to pick one that applies to that conversation, right? But the whole goal is to book that appointment. Now, we know even if you get as good as me at handling these sign calls. Yeah. Okay. I don't have 100% face-to-face conversion. Okay. So that's when it's so important to get into follow-up, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But what's really important is to actually get permission to call. Okay. And so one of the things that if I'm not able to book the face-to-face appointment, because remember, they called us. So we don't need permission to talk to them because they're calling us. Okay. But if you're not able to book the appointment, we're going to get into some follow-up here in a second, but you want to get their permission before you call them again. Right. And so one of the sort of like things that we say to do that is, hey, I know as you mentioned, you're not ready to meet yet, which is totally understandable. You know, purchasing a home is a really big decision. Okay. One of the things that we believe at Empower Home is that education is power. Okay. So I want to make sure to provide as much information as possible as you're walking through the process of purchasing a home. So we do give small, quick, and information-rich updates on the real estate market regularly. Would it be okay if I follow up with you to check in and update you as to what we're seeing in the market? If someone is interested in making a move in the next 2 years, they want that. Like they want to know what's going on in the market. Okay. And then they're going to say yes. Okay. And then you say, okay, awesome. I'm going to give you a call next month, check in and let you know what changed in the market in the last 4 weeks. Sound good? Can't wait to talk to you. Right. And so you're building that relationship, but you're getting permission to do so.
Okay, so let's go into follow-up systems. What do you do if you haven't set that appointment, or even if you have? Like you've set the appointment, you are still moving towards them showing up or you setting an appointment in the future. And this is where you cover the follow-up systems. And follow-up is the final steps that get the gold from all this work that you've done. Because once the call ends, that's really where the work begins. And this is where most agents drop the ball. This is where you beat all the agents. If you can get this, you need to have a system in place to track every sign call. You need to have a system in place for the information and for the reminders to follow up. So a good CRM, which is a contact management system, somewhere, a database, somewhere where you're keeping the names, the contact information, the motivation, all the information you learned from them. You want to log all those details immediately, including any properties that they showed interest in or the specific things you learned about the needs. So if you answered this call in the car, you need to pull over if you have not already done that at the end of the call so that you can put them into your follow-up system, because follow-up is where you get the results. We have people in our database that were sign calls, or any sources for that matter, that we have followed up with for years. And then they call us one day out of the blue and they say, I know we've been playing phone tag. And my agents always laugh when people say that, because they're like, no, dude, that was chase. You know, like I was chasing you. It was not, there was no version of tag back and forth. But for the person receiving your calls, it feels like that because they receive the information. They think, oh, that was helpful. They've got no reason to call you back if they don't have a reason in that moment to need you. But as long as you're still there, they feel like they've been playing phone tag with you, that they've engaged with your information. And then if they don't answer it one day when the timing is right for them, they will call you back. They will call you back again and say, hey, thanks for all that information. I'm ready to do something. When can we meet? And that's when you feel like, it was gold.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so they need to go into a CRM because you will forget them.
Yes.
Okay, mark my words. We've done a few episodes on follow-up, and I think I shared the story about my most mortifying experience of forgetting about someone and losing a family that we weren't able to serve them. And so we lost the sale because I did not get the information into the CRM. My recommendation is every time a new lead goes on a CRM, they also automatically launch a follow-up plan with a series of calls, texts, and emails to remind you to call based on their time frame. Okay. And again, this is after you've gotten their permission to call them again. Okay. But if they are wanting to move in 6 months, we always cut it in half. And then we set up a plan to reach out to them, once a month or every other week, something like that. Okay. If it's further out, you might want to call them once a quarter, right? But the point is that there's a plan that launches that reminds you to call them or remind your team to call them. The other thing that I like to do with follow-up that I think is really important is I always recommend that after a conversation over the phone, you follow up with something in writing, thanking them for their time, thanking them for talking with you, and making sure that they have your contact information. Okay. So email, text message. Hey, it was great to connect over 123 Main Street. I loved hearing about your daughter and your situation, and I'm always here to help. Here's the information I shared with you. Here's the other house that fits your price range, and I wanted to make sure to get it to you. If you have any questions about real estate, here's my cell phone number, here's my email. You can reach out to me anytime, okay? So you're building that relationship not just through voice, but you're also building it through in writing, and then they're on a action plan to where you're able to follow up with them regularly until, like Tiffany said, 4 years later, you have a family that you get to serve that if you didn't do that, you wouldn't be able to serve. So it's all in the follow-up.
I love that. So wrapping it all up, at the end of this, I believe sign calls are not a gamble. I cannot believe it's your number 3 source. We convert sign calls, but not like that. And so I'm like, ooh, we're going to get better because they don't have to just be an interruption. They can be a reliable source of business if you approach it with the right mindset, if you're using the right framework of the conversation, and if you have a solid follow-up system. So I think my biggest takeaway is in that middle, it's a good reminder for me, is the goal is not to answer their questions. It's to establish trust and understand their needs and guide them to the next step, which is an appointment. You're not there to answer their questions. You're there to guide them towards an appointment with you. So if you want to dominate sign call conversions, consistency is everything. Treat every call like it is gold ringing in your pocket. Follow up with them diligently. And I believe you're going to see your conversion rates change into closings.
Love it. Love it. Well, as always, I love my Tiffany and getting to spend time with her. She's so brilliant and I learned so much. And we want you to use everything that you heard today to get out there and build a big business. And of course, you don't ever want to forget about that even bigger life because that is what it's all about. If you found this episode to be helpful, I would love for you to subscribe to our podcast. We would love to hear from you through a 5-star review. And if share it with a friend. This episode is very tactical and could be shared with any business owner. Okay, so share it with a friend and let's get out there and continue to build big businesses and even bigger lives. Have a great week and see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not KWRI and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. Warning. You must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list, and do not use an autodialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance.